Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
Intane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora koutou everybody, welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. We had a bit of a break last week because life got crazy busy, so we didn't record, but that's okay, we're back. And what have I put into my basket since we last spoke? The key thing I put into my basket is this key learning that I keep on repeating and reminding myself about is something about communication. And the line I'd like to talk about or learned about is all communication is the response that you get. And that when you think about that, that's really, really powerful. You know, we all think that we communicate with other people with an intention, and then when people misinterpret it, we blame the person, but actually it's on us. We haven't communicated properly. But also on the other person's side, they haven't asked any questions. But also back to us, we haven't asked them if they understand. So it's a pretty crazy thing. So here's my learning: is all communication is the response that you get, and I'd love for you all to think about that. But also today's a special day for all of those people around the world that celebrate Eid Mubarak to you, and hopefully you celebrate that with all the feasting because you've just finished Ramadan. So hey, let's get amongst it and enjoy that celebration with your whānau and people that are important to you. But hey, today's not about me. Tane can't join us today because he's away doing some other cool things. Today, my guest is someone that I don't actually know, which is really cool. So the beauty about this podcast is people come on, they jump on and say, hey, can we jump on the podcast? And this young person has contacted me a few weeks ago and said, hey, we want to jump onto the podcast. I was like, awesome, cool. But life got busy, and as we were sharing just before we jumped on, we were just ships in the night passing, but here we are today. And when I did my little research, I was like, this is a pretty epic human being, and I can't wait to share what they have done in their young life so far and what they're up to. So it is our pleasure, our honor, and our privilege to welcome Savera Sidhu to our podcast. Kia ora, Savera.
Kia ora. Thank you so much for having me.
No, beautiful. Thank you for reaching out. Savera, for people who know nothing about you, who is Savera today on the 21st of March, 2026?
So my name is Savera. I'm 17 years old, and I'm currently attending University of Auckland. So I'm studying psychology, criminology, and I think the things that I'm passionate about are karate and youth advocacy, specifically mental health. I'm really passionate about mental health, and I've done a lot of work around that, which I'm going to talk more about.
Amazing, yeah. Beautiful. And just a cheeky question, what made you want to come to the podcast to share a story?
So I'd heard about it through other people that I know, and I loved how you guys share real lived experiences. And it's something niche, which honestly not a lot of podcasts I've seen do, because they're kind of more focused on more external things. So I thought it was great, and that's why I wanted to join.
Amazing, thank you. And I'm smiling because it just makes it's pretty cool to hear that from somebody who's on the outside. So let's talk about you. 17 years old, you have, you said karate and advocacy. If we had to put them on a scale, which one of those arrived in your life first?
Oh, so which ones surround my life first?
Which one is the one, your first passion? You said you're passionate about.
My first passion was karate, and then it kind of just branched into youth advocacy because of the stuff that I learned through karate.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the order.
Let's talk about karate then. So karate, I've seen you've done some really cool things in karate, but let's go back to when you first started. Was it a choice, or was it your parents making you go? You are doing karate, and you shall do karate, and karate is your jam.
So I think at the beginning, honestly, so there's this one Indian movie. It's called Dangal. It's about two sisters who do wrestling, and it's kind of against the social norms because they are girls. And well, my whole family watched that, and so my mom kind of went, that looks really cool, you're going to do karate. So that's how it started, and I wasn't too keen about it at first, I must say, but once I got into it, it really turned into something that I'm passionate about as well.
I love the fact that a Bollywood movie had an impact in your life, hey?
Yeah.
And I'm just laughing here. Your mom was like, oh, I can't do this right now, so therefore I'm going to live my dream through my daughter. Here we go.
Exactly. And especially because I am quite short. I'm 4'10", And I was also short back then. And so my mom kind of thought that it would be good for me to learn how to defend myself in social situations. So I think all of those accumulated, and then the movie was like the final straw. So she decided to put me in karate.
Amazing. And with
Yeah.
karate, there's so many different disciplines of karate.
Mm.
What form of karate is your jam?
So we do, my club is called SCANS. So it's called Shitokai Shitoryu Karate Association of New Zealand. It's like a combination of a few styles. And so there are two aspects of karate, kata and kumite. I'm mostly a kata player, which is kind of demonstrating the movements of karate rather than the full contact sparring. But yeah.
Oh, amazing! It's really cool because you when I think of karate, I think of Bruce Lee, and I'm like, yo, Bruce Lee, oh wow, wow, wow. But I'm
I think
sure
that's
you,
what most people think. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, hey, that's your icon right there. But now I'm gonna think of Savera. Like, there we go. Oh, yeah, it's done. Kata, which is great. Funny story, Savera. In my office, we have someone in our office who loves karate. She teaches karate, and every time she she tries to talk to me, she doesn't talk to me. She like does a karate chop, and she's like,
Oh my God.
ah, got your attention. I was like, ah. And she's like, I'm practicing my kata. I was like, no, you're not. You're destroying me. What are you up to?
It's quite an
Uh,
interesting sport though, because it blends so many different aspects, like physical well-being as well as the mental aspect, and it's also an art. So
yeah.
it's quite interesting. Yeah.
And as we think about your journey, because I know you've reached a really high level, what was that like for you? Because it's all sport has its ups and its downs. What is it like for you when you started to where you are today? I guess with your journey.
So when I started, I actually was attending a different club. And this karate club was not so focused on competition. They were more focused in the traditional aspects. Whereas my personal goals, I kind of, at first, I had a different mindset. So I really wanted to get out there and compete. And so after, I think, 5 years, I decided to make the switch to the current club, which was very difficult. It was around COVID time. So all the classes were happening online, and I felt like I wasn't getting too much out of that either. So it was quite a difficult move for me. But once I did join this new club, I realized that that club is basically the top club in New Zealand. So everyone there is competing at a very high level. So I was kind of like one of the youngest people in the room, one of the least experienced ones. So it took me a bit of time to get to that caliber of competing. And in one of my very first tournaments, I forgot to bow and I got disqualified because of that. So I did face quite a lot of setbacks. That day I cried a lot.
Yeah.
But I slowly but steadily learnt and got myself up to the level of competing internationally. So that really helped me learn. Yeah, I
Yeah.
faced a lot of setbacks, but it was good in the end.
And there's two things there that I want to highlight. The first
Yeah,
thing was the move to a stronger club.
yeah,
There's a saying that if you're the best person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So it's
yeah,
probably the right thing. And the other
mm,
thing, is through our setbacks we learn, like you learned, okay, cool. I didn't bow, therefore there was a consequence, right? So you learn from the consequences, which is really, really, and those are the learnings, as you said before. There's the physical stuff, which is definite, and then there's also the mindset and the holistic things.
yeah.
What is one of the biggest surprises for you as you look back and reflect on your karate journey? What are some big learnings for you?
Some big learnings, like I mentioned, is probably the mindset shift because at first I did want to really just compete and get the medals because that's what it seemed like everyone was doing. I thought success kind of had to be loud and achievements had to be shared everywhere and gained and earned. But as I went on throughout my journey, I realized that karate is so much more than that. It's a community, it's an art. And yeah, that's what kind of led me into my youth advocacy later on, the realization that it's actually a lot more than just
Yeah,
achievement.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really, really powerful. Really powerful. Just gonna press pause for a second because lots of noise.
Yeah.
All right, go back. Sorry, team. Just a bit of interruption there, but all good. So you were saying it was the mindset, and you said it was loud and proud, but you've learned that actually success is not about being loud and proud and shiny. And is that a reflection now, or was that a reflection that happened? Sorry, a ongoing thing that happened while you're doing karate?
I'd say it's definitely an ongoing thing. It's not something that you just wake up and realize, obviously, but it took a lot of support from my family and friends, kind of helping me build that realization as well. My mom always said, let your success be your noise, because before I really wanted to kind of just put myself out there. But then I realized you don't have to be loud. You don't have to be like confidence does not have to be loud either. It's something which is built internally as well. So yeah,
I love it. Let your success be your noise. What a
yeah.
beautiful saying. That's really, really beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. And for our listeners out there and for myself as well, you said you represented New Zealand. But let's really talk about your achievements. What level did you get to, and where are you now? And let's talk about representing New Zealand. Let's make your success be noisy. Let's go.
So yeah, so I started out just competing regionally and nationally, which I did uh, get on the podium for, and then after that, I kind of just through my club, I got a lot of opportunities to compete internationally. So one of them was in 2024, where I competed in the youth league in Fujairah. That was kind of my first presence on the big stage, and I didn't get anything that day, but I did learn a lot from it, and I kind of met a lot of new people as well from a lot of different countries. And then the second time I went was last year. I went to Singapore to compete in the Asia Pacific competition. And in that competition, I made it to the quarterfinals, placing fifth in the end. So I think that was one of like the most eye-opening moments for me, and one of the moments where I felt most grateful for making that change in clubs as well. So
Amazing. And what about your belt colors? What color belt are you?
I'm a first dan black belt.
Amazing, amazing. That's pretty epic. Yeah, well done, well done. And in our little conversation, you spoke about the fact that during your time with karate is when you really thought about advocacy. What is the bridge between karate and advocacy?
I think the first thing that sparked that is because I actually stopped competing a while back because of the knee injury that I sustained during a holiday training camp. And from then, I kind of felt like, what am I supposed to do from here? You know, I can't compete anymore. What is my purpose? Because karate was one of the biggest things in my life, really. But then I kind of had to shift my mindset into it's not all about the medals. It's not all about competing and winning. It's also about the lessons that I learned along the way and how I can pass those teachings on to other people who are going through the same things or, you know, through their own sport, through their own journeys. And so that's what kind of sparked the shift and led me to found Bright Star. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
amazing. So I guess all sport. I mean, everyone that does a sport will get injured at some point, and
yeah.
I think what I tell people or what I've heard or read is that point there is when some of your most important life decisions are made. Some people lament and go, "Oh, it's all over for me," and some people do other things. So I guess that was a crucial point for you with your mindset, as you said that, hey, I've actually want to do blah with this year. And we're going to talk about blah in a second, and I'm calling it blah for now because we have an origin story. So you have the injury, you decided advocacy, but why advocacy? Like why was it not sustainability or recycling or why was it any plethora of other things that you could have chosen?
So I think because of the setbacks I faced through karate, it was about the height. It was also a bit of being a girl in a male-dominated sport, kind of those kind of things added up, as well as some things I was going through outside of karate, such as, you know, my parents' divorce. There was some bullying at school because of my height. And I think I came to a realization after all of that that I was young. You know, I was in primary school about like that time when it happened, and there wasn't really any support for me because parents can do so much, friends can do so much, but they aren't qualified well-being specialists. So that kind of led me to the realization that I want to advocate for you know, like qualified well-being support, and it kind of went into that lane. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing, and I love that. And this is really beautiful. So I'm going to touch on something that's really important is the bullying. I know that wasn't in our conversation, but let's
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about bullying because this is an important part, and I'd love to know what that was like for you at that point in time, if you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, of course. So for me, the bullying started in primary school. Of course, I did talk to teachers about it, but as I said, they don't get paid for helping students overcome those mental struggles. They really only get paid to teach. So, of course, they did sit down and talk to me, and I really appreciated that, but there was only so much they could do. And like I said, my parents were going through their own things, friends were doing their own things. And at that age, even friends, like they aren't really mature enough to kind of talk about that in detail either. So, yeah, I'd say it was really difficult for me being shorter than most people my age. But yeah, I think that's what definitely sparked the realization that there should be support for those younger people as well.
Yeah, and what's powerful right there is, we all of us, we all have parents, and we think our parents should know all the answers, but actually they're doing things for the very first time as well. Whatever they're
Yeah,
living their lives, and and they were going through their challenging time as well, and they were, and then navigating that, and you navigating your world, and it's never an excuse, but it's also an awareness piece that everyone is going through their own. Your parents who are your heroes are also going through their things as well, because
exactly.
we're all humans, and I love that you mentioned that there. And the same as teachers as well. We put a lot of um, pressure on teachers to be able to do everything, but as you said, they're trained to be a teacher,
Yeah.
and they're not being trained to do all the things. So it's really hard. It's again, it's no one's fault. It's just an awareness piece of what's happening out there in the world. How old were you when all this started unfolding for you?
I would say I was around maybe 9 or 10 when it very first started.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you decide that you wanted to do something about it and start something?
So I think um, only because that was happening in school, I hadn't really started my karate journey then yet.
Yeah.
So it was kind of after that karate journey came to a halt, then I realized that, something really needs to be done about this because I went through this and no one else should have to go through that. So I think that's when I decided to, yeah, shift my focus. And
And now we can talk about the blah that I mentioned before, the blah. So let's talk about the blah. The blah. Let's talk about Bright Spark. I always like to ask the question: is the name? Where did the name come from?
the name, okay, there was a lot of thought about this really because there are so many options out there, right? But I kind of thought that because I'm focusing on youth, it should be something which is youthful and something which gives people hope. So that's why I kind of went with Bright Start because you're giving youth a bright start for their futures and the setbacks ahead of them.
Beautiful. I love that. And when you started this, was it just you by yourself, or did you have a group of people that were like, actually we're going to jump on board with you?
When I started, it was a one-man army.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was me, myself, and I.
And what is it like for you when you declared to the world that this is what I'm doing?
Of course, it's very difficult at first because there's so many skills associated with running an organization, such as like cold emailing and such. And I feel like you aren't taught those in school and you aren't taught them in general. So it was kind of difficult for me at first. Like, how am I supposed to navigate this? But as I kept on going, I did learn how to communicate with people, how to cold email, how to develop partnerships and such.
Yeah. So if I'm a one-man army, what are we at the moment?
So I've delivered 5 workshops so far, reaching over 160 rangatahi. And I've also formed partnerships with organizations and schools and also like holiday programs such as Skids and Aneth Uncommon. So yeah.
Amazing. And tell me about the workshops that you run. What is the basis of the workshops?
So of course I wanted to improve youth mental well-being, but I wanted to utilize my own experiences to do so. So I mainly used karate, martial arts, and some exercise-based activities in order to enhance their physical and mental well-being. And so this involved things like breathing exercises and basic karate stances, katas. But I didn't do any sparring because we don't want them to learn those skills. Obviously, not like too early on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be unsafe.
Yeah, totally. And what's really powerful for me, how has this been received by, do you go into schools, or how do you tell me the process?
So the process basically, of course, I'd have to identify schools, primary schools. I mainly focus on primary schools. And yeah, of course, it's cold emailing. I think cold emailing is a really important skill and the best way to get yourself out there. So I emailed principals and teachers. I got in touch with them through, especially my school as well. And then you kind of just decide on a time, a date, explain what the workshop is for. And then if they like the idea, then they invite me in. And yeah, I do it mainly during school time for holiday programs, it will be in the holidays, obviously,
Yes.
and I just would make that commute and get it done. Yeah.
Now, what is it like doing the first one? The
The
first,
first,
the reason I ask this question is because you have an idea and it's all cool, and then your first school says, "Yeah, let's go." What is it like for you?
so of course it's very overwhelming. It's like, oh my gosh, this is my first one.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think especially because I do groups of around 20 children, and sometimes it's hard to keep them engaged and focused throughout the whole entire workshop.
yeah,
So I started out doing an hour long sessions, and I kind of realized I don't think this is going to work because it's so long and it's so hard for kids to stay engaged for that full hour.
yeah.
So I think through after doing one or two workshops, I realized that I can shorten the times, I can give them breaks, mental breaks, and like time to get water, stuff like that, in order to keep them engaged. I think that was the most important thing because in order for them to get something out of the workshop, they have to be interacting with it.
100%. And that's the hardest thing with workshops, right? And I can tell you once Savera, it doesn't matter whether it's a 5-year-old or a 50-year-old. If there's no engagement, it's not going to happen. It's going to
Exactly.
a dead workshop. And when you started doing this, yeah, which is really, really cool, I always like to talk about the challenges. And I talk about challenges because people, like I said, when before we start, people see the outcome. What was the number one challenge for you apart from the engagement for you internally, the internal conversation?
For me internally, actually, I was a very quiet person before. Probably because of all the things I went through. I did not like to communicate. I was always that quiet child in the back of the class. Um, my reports were always Savera is an amazing student, but she's too quiet. So for me, trying to overcome that was a really big part of delivering workshops because being the person standing in front of the room, leading all these activities and talking about what I've learned, that's the greatest skill that I had to develop for all these workshops. And I think that's something that took a lot of courage for me internally.
Yeah, and did you do this yourself, or did you have people help you to get through the difficult conversation you have with yourself?
So, like, do you mean in the workshops?
For yourself, the conversation with you, to make yourself, the reason I ask this question is a lot of us we all have fears. This is part of life, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes we get over it ourselves, but sometimes we have people in our life that come in and help us to,
Mm.
or coaches. I mean, I'm a coach as well, and I advocate for coaching. But I'd love to know how you navigated that.
Yeah. So, actually, for me, it happened through debate.
Ah,
I
yes,
joined debating in I think year 10, which is kind of where I learned to just put myself out there, give it a go, and think on the spot, which was where I developed all those communication skills and learned to have confidence in myself, really.
amazing. So again, debating is pretty cool, very
Yeah.
awesome. Now I'm going to ask you about Savera Karate. Savera, um, he's the organization, the Bright
Right
Start.
start. Yeah.
Bright Start, yeah. I have blah blah in my head. I don't know why, because I started blah, right? Bright
Yeah.
Spot. And then we have Savera at home, we have Savera, the young person, and then we have Savera at school. How did you balance all that?
So I think, yeah, it was actually quite a lot to balance, but I did it through mainly the support from my parents, and also I have a screen time limit on my phone. So of course, social media, I tried to keep that away from me. And yeah, it was mainly like personal diaries, just keeping on top of things, not leaving things last minute. Yeah, it was quite difficult to play the balancing act, but it worked out.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if you were to go back to Savera at that age, what would you tell that Savera at that age with all these things happening?
At that age, I think I'd tell her just, like remember the balance is important. Don't get too engrossed in doing all these things and not have enough time for relaxation or spending time with your family. You kind of need to find a balance between everything. And if there's something that you should give up on, it should not be family or other commitments, which are like important and personal. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that, because I'll say because I love it because um, I tell my team that when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. When you say
Exactly.
no to something, you're saying yes to something else. So it's really important to think about, as you said before, what am I saying yes to, and what is being sacrificed at that point in time? And if the thing that's being sacrificed is something, as you said, your word was personal, then you should reflect and think about actually it's the right thing that I'm doing, because a lot of us don't do that. That we chase this thing, whatever this thing is, and we forget about those important things, which are family, whatever those important things to you are internally. So I love how you said that there. But what I'd also like to ask you, Savera, is you do all these pretty cool things here. You finish up school, and now you've got to make a choice of going to university. How did you make that decision?
So for me personally, it happened, I was in year 12 last year, and I was sitting in classes and realizing that my learning style is more independent rather than being spoon fed. And I really wanted to just develop that independence and put myself out there. And I thought the idea of university sounded more appealing to me. So my mom suggested going early. So from then I researched about it and I thought this seems like something that I really want to do. It suits my learning styles more. So then I applied, I got in. Yeah, just went from there.
And what does it feel like for you as I'm assuming that you might be the youngest person in some of your classes. I'm assuming I could be totally wrong. Do you even think about that, or you don't? That doesn't cross your mind?
So it does cross my mind really because a
Yeah.
lot of people, when you spark conversation, they ask, "Oh, how old are you?" 17. Oh my gosh, you're 17? You're in university, you must be really smart. So I think that kind of thing happens at least once a day. But honestly, it I find it a good thing because being the youngest in the room is it can feel a bit daunting sometimes. Like, oh my gosh, everyone here knows more than me, they're older than me. But in reality, being the youngest in the room means that you have so many people to learn from and that you're doing well.
Yeah, and like we said before at the start, it's if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. So and I'm assuming that you're not the smartest person in the room, and that's okay because you can learn from so many different people. And if you are, you just move to find another room. You go, cool, this is not my room. I'm going to the next room.
Yeah.
The other cool thing that I noticed when I was doing my research about you is the Girl Boss involvement. Let's talk about Girl Boss and how you got the award.
Yeah, so in 2024, I got the Outstanding Applicant Award. I kind of just I was doing some research, I found out about it, and I thought, oh, this looks really cool. And I had a look at the categories, and some of the previous winners, they were really inspiring. Like the stuff they had done kind of made me think that I want to be like them as well. So that's what drove me to apply, and I got it. And also, my kind of engagement with Girl Boss has continued since. I'm actually participating in their healthcare course this year, which is really exciting as well. Hmm.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing what Alexia has done there, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's really funny. Severa, a number of people that have been on this podcast have through some way been involved in Girl Boss,
Oh
which is
my
pretty
gosh,
cool.
really?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's
It's
pretty
an
crazy.
amazing organization. Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. And as you sit here today and you think about, where you are right now as a 17-year-old at university, what is what comes up for you as you sit back and reflect on your journey so far? And I use the word young because you're still young in what you're going to be doing, but I always tell people young doesn't mean not wise. And
Mm.
I tell I work with lots of people, and I always tell people that wisdom doesn't come from age; it comes from experience. And it sounds like you have a lot of experience in your world. Um, what are some standout moments for you as you think about where you are today?
Could you please repeat that? Sorry.
So yeah, what are some of the standout moments for you as you think back and go, okay, some of these are my I'm going to call them. Have you heard of the term a Kairos moment?
No, I
I'll
haven't.
talk about a Kairos moment. A Kairos moment is when things happen in your life that really have an impact. So, for example, for you, your Kairos moment might have been the day you decided bullying was not enough for you.
Yeah.
Then you had a change, or a Kairos moment might be the day you went to university. This shifted for you. So, for example, the Kairos moment for me, one of them was when I arrived in New Zealand, or when I lots of Kairos. We all have lots of Kairos moments in our life, but those are the moments in your life when things change dramatically for you.
Yeah. So for me, I definitely say my moment was once I stopped doing karate. I think that the week after I had stopped, where I had no training, no competitions, nothing lined up, kind of made me rethink, like, what am I doing? That was my moment because up till that point, I was very focused on competing, achievements, awards, that kind of thing. But after that moment, I realized that there is so much more to life. And that's when I began doing a lot of other work as well. And yeah, exploring my passions and interests aside from karate as well.
Thank you for sharing that there. That just remind me of something you said right at the start, that you are very passionate about mental health. Tell me about that there. Where does that come from? Obviously, you've had the bullying, but any other fires around mental health?
So I think quite evidently, a lot of youth these days, especially even in primary schools, they have access to social media, which is like negatively impacting their mental health. There are obviously so many other factors as well. But one thing I realized after doing some research was because I'm also studying psychology, so like that kind of, tied into the mental well-being passion. But I did some research, and there is qualified mental well-being support in high schools, but not so much in primary schools in New Zealand. So that kind of led me to think about, how would they get support? Because I didn't have it either. How would they get it now? And so that kind of sparked my passion for youth mental well-being. And that's why I also direct my workshops towards primary school kids, because all of that kind of added up. I also recently launched a petition calling for mandated well-being support in every primary school in New Zealand. So that all kind of led on from my experiences.
Amazing. And tell us more about the petition for our listeners out there. How can they help you, and where can they find it? What can they do?
Yeah, so I have the link. I made it on change.org, and I started it about a few weeks ago, I'd say. It was really just about sharing it, spreading the word, because I think it's a very important cause. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, cool. So what we'll do is we'll put that in the show notes. I'll get that from you later on. And for
Yeah.
those listeners out there that want to get involved, you know, put your name down, and let's
Yeah.
support this really really beautiful cause. Especially if you know, actually every single one of us has been to a primary school or is always going to go to a primary school. So
Yeah.
it affects all of us.
Yeah.
Severa, you raised something that really got me thinking. As a 17-year-old, I'd love your thoughts and opinions on the world at the moment in terms of social media. And not good, not bad, but in Australia they've changed the rules around social media, and there's a movement
Yeah.
in New Zealand as well doing the same, pushing with that as well. What are your thoughts as a young person?
So I think social media is definitely addictive. I think we all know that much. But I think social media itself is not the bad thing. I think it's the way in which it's being used. I'm also part of Five Rights, which is basically an organization working for youth digital well-being and like digital rights, which is so this is like another part of what I do as well. But I think one of the key things that I found out through that organization and through my work with digital well-being as well is that the adults have designed these social media platforms, yet I feel like teenagers and youth are the ones kind of getting the blame for its effects. Of course, I'm not playing the blame game on anyone. It's just something to think about that these platforms were designed to be quite addictive. And I think we are more the victims of the digital revolution. Yeah. Mm.
That's a great perspective. Again, there's no blame, right? If you
Yeah,
tell,
yeah,
and it's really hard because I'll tell you a crazy story. So when I did my PhD was looking at the impact of social media on young people and how they share health information and mental health information, sexual health information. Okay, and I did my PhD. I started it maybe a year after Facebook was started, and there was zero literature, like nothing, zero, because it
mm,
was the first time, right? And I still remember my supervisor saying to me, "This is a fad. It's gonna disappear. It's not gonna happen." And 20 years on, I'm like, "Hey guys, I wrote my PhD. My PhD, I had to make lots of different changes because people didn't think that social media was going to be doing what it's done at the moment." Um, yeah, so I definitely can see how when it's not good or bad, it's just the creation of the tool. It's a bit like nobody knew what was gonna. It's Pandora's box, right?
exactly.
Somebody
Yeah.
somebody opens something and boom, off you go. It's just done its thing. Um, yeah, and what would you think would happen if we followed Australia and we did the social media ban for under 16?
Mm.
Sorry, I'll
think
rephrase it. I don't know. I can't. That's an unfair question. What do you think will happen? What is your opinion on that? Yes.
my opinion, I think honestly, personally, I feel like there's a lot of pros and cons, as there is of every decision. But I feel like it people should be able to kind of navigate their own way through social media rather than just having it completely blocked off from them. I think one of the key learnings happen when you're actually exposed to it in a safe environment rather than just being given full access, but also no access at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there should be more education surrounding social media and its effects and how to navigate that safely, rather than a full ban. But then, in a way, it's also good because you're kind of protecting the younger generations from social media and its negative effects, which can help. But then, once they reach 16, they also don't know how to cope with that once they do have access to it.
It's it's um it's a tough one.
Yeah.
I weigh between the two, like yay or nay, because
Yeah.
every day is so different. So which is why I'm always interested in both parties and what they say and what they think. And like you said, there's pros and cons to everything. And I think the other, I mean, I love your thoughts. The other variable that's come into play now is the world of AI and how that impacts the
Yeah.
world of social media as well. Because half the things you see on social media are not true anymore,
Mhm.
or they're questionable, and yeah, which adds a whole different dimension.
Yeah, exactly. AI. Mm. Yeah. I think AI is something which also has its pros and cons. As I said, everything does. But yeah, I think again, it's really about education. Like you need to be able to use AI safely and in a way that's not kind of like cheating on any assessments or anything, like in a school point of view. But in a way, it can also be really helpful. Like personally, I do use AI as well. If I need difficult concepts explained to me in a short period of time, because sometimes teachers don't have time, they don't always reply instantly to emails and such. So AI can also be a really useful tool in that way. But then again, there's also the spreading of false information through AI, because
Yeah,
sometimes, like such as ChatGPT, sometimes it gets its statistics wrong. So then it's also the matter of fact, like, can that be trusted? But yeah.
yeah. And what I love about this conversation is it's a conversation that everyone should be having. It's a conversation that we can't say it's good or bad, or I'm not going to touch it. I ran an AI course the other day, and there was one person in the room that refuses to touch AI, and I was like, that's cool, that's awesome, you can do that, that's your choice.
Mm,
But just because you're not using it, it doesn't mean the whole world is not using it around you. And
exactly.
that's going to impact you as well. So we need to just be
Mhm.
aware. We're not telling you to use it, but just be aware of this is what it can and cannot do.
Yeah.
And also it changes every day. You wake up in the morning, oh whoa,
Yeah.
this video was created by Gemini. What the hell? What's going on here? Yeah.
But I think,
Um,
yeah, it's really like a spectrum. I don't think you should be fully reliant on AI, but I don't think you should also be like so disengaged from AI that you know nothing about it, or you just want to stay away from it because you should be aware because it's a big part of the world, like you said now.
yeah,
So,
yeah. And I'm sure we can keep talking on this topic for a very long time.
yeah.
Actually, all the topics for a very long time. But Savira, I'd love for you to share with us, you shared something that was really powerful earlier on about, your family, your parents were going through divorce, and where you're sitting right now. I'd love to know the support that you have and how your family supports you and all the awesome things that you do. And I asked that because none of us in this world can get where we are without support, and I'd love to know what that looks like for you.
So, for me, it was mainly kind of talking to my parents after I faced these setbacks. They always were very open to just sitting down with me, letting me cry, talking things out, which is something that I really appreciate because I feel like a lot of parents, they don't really have the capacity to do that, or they don't really know how to talk it out. Yeah, some parents are just really kind of detached from their children, and that's why children kind of hide things and start doing other things. But my parents have been always really, really supportive, no matter what I want to do. If I want to continue with karate, if I don't, no matter, what I decide to start doing, they're always very supportive. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love that for you, and it's really awesome to hear that there. And kudos to your parents as well. Severa, I know we're short on time. I could keep talking to you forever and ever.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get you back on here another time. But before we close the podcast, I'd love to ask you the question we ask every single podcast guest. And our podcast is called Baskets of Knowledge. In every episode, we ask our guests to share a piece of knowledge to put into our basket. You've shared quite a bit today, but I want to know if there's one particular piece of knowledge you'd like to share with us.
So, one particular piece of knowledge. I think it would definitely be that quote I mentioned. Put your head down and let your success be your noise. You don't always have to be the loudest person in the room. Confidence can look quiet, and you really just, yeah, you need to just keep on having that resilience. Keep on going no matter when times get tough. And
I love that you come back to that one. Put your head down and let your success
I really
be
do
the
love
noise.
that.
That is a very cool quote. You might see it somewhere on my LinkedIn or my Instagram somewhere, but I think it's a very, very cool quote. I'm going to encourage your mom to that.
Yeah.
Or encourage you. Yeah. So Vera, any last things before we close the podcast that you'd like to share that we haven't uncovered and you thought might be cool to share?
Not that I can think of, no. I think we've covered quite a bit and had a really good discussion today. So, yeah.
Amazing. And if people want to get involved with Bright Spark or with anything that you do, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way is just to email me about it. I can share my email and can put it out there. Yeah, just kind of let me know what you want to do, how you want to get involved, and I'm open to anything.
Awesome. We'll put that into the show notes, or we might just give them your Instagram handle and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you, Savera, for your time. And for our listeners out there, hopefully you have enjoyed today's podcast. I really have enjoyed this. I mean, the time has flown by so quick. So Savera, I really appreciate your time, your knowledge, and all that you've shared today. It's really beautiful when I get to talk to someone that is in your space and all the energy that you bring, but all the cool things that you do, which is really, really beautiful. And also the impact that you're having in the world, especially at the primary school level. Because sometimes we forget about that. And thank you for reminding us that we always talk about young adults, or university students, or high school students, but we forget about where it all starts in the primary schools. This is where it all starts. So thank you so much. For listeners out there, hopefully you learned something today. If you haven't learned something, go back and listen again because you probably fell asleep and that's not cool. So go back and listen again. Until next time, don't forget to put something into your basket of knowledge. Don't forget to find a reason to smile. And as Savera said today, don't forget to let success be the noise. Till next time, talk to you everybody. Bye. Peace.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.